Hi there, I'm Brian, an Ultimate Frisbee athlete and trainer. I'm going to show you a few quick strategies to troubleshoot glute or piriformis tension or pain so that you can improve mobility, feel better, and perform better. Now first, in order to address some of this, one of the best ways to do it is to find a stretch that is not irritating and then produce force with that stretch tissue. So I'm going to show you some of my favorite setups to find the stretch first, and then I'll explain after that how we produce force in that position. So first setup with a bench. I love an incline bench, but if you don't have one, here's one of the best setups that I've found, which is you lay your leg down like this, kind of like a pigeon stretch if you've ever done that. The leg can be horizontal like this and parallel with the bench, or you can angle it a little bit. That depends on your comfort level and your mobility. Now another thing I like to do that I find helps most people is pop a block under the knee, under the thigh, okay, so that that shin is like this rather than flush against the bench. This tends to take some pressure off the knee, pressure off the hip. For me and for a lot of my clients, I find that it also helps you find a deeper stretch in here, which is what we're after. So this is one great setup you can use. If this is a lot on your back leg, you don't like it, you can lean your hands here, or you can pop your back leg up on something elevated. I like to put the knee down like that, boom, just like that. So that way, it's a little easier position to get into. You don't have to hold yourself up so much. Now my absolute favorite setup is with an incline bench. So if you can give it a little bit of an incline, not too much. I love to wedge my foot in here, it just works perfectly. Not all benches are gonna be exactly like that, but boom, so now I have this angle here. Lots of contact with my body, so it keeps me really nice and stable. I can put my hands and lean, and then I can find the stretch. So with any of these positions, you want to glue your leg down. Doesn't move. You can even hold it down with your hand. Then I like to turn my pelvis a little bit, lean in, lean out. You're exploring. You're not trying to fit a certain shape with your body. You are exploring to find what gives you the stretch in that glute or that piriformis that you're looking for. So we don't want it to be irritating. We do want to find some stretch there. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. I find this position works the best for most people. Now, if you don't have access to a bench, you could do it on a couch, but if you don't have that or you prefer the floor, here's how you can do it. So you can get your front leg in a 90-degree angle, like so, boom. Your back leg can be in a 90-degree angle. This doesn't matter as much, so just put this in a comfortable position. We're getting this one here. We're gonna try to get square with this and lean in. Just like with the bench, if this is not super comfortable for you, you can pop a cushion or a block under your knee. That might make it more comfortable, might help you find a deeper stretch. What I like to do from here is grab the foot, and then I'm glued down. My leg is glued. Now I can kind of rotate in and out a little bit, just like we were doing on the bench. I can find that stretch. It may be different side to side, but find where you got it, and then once you've got it there, then we can work on producing some force and not just holding the stretch, because just holding the stretch itself is not going to drive the adaptation we want here. Okay, in final position, the classic, the pigeon stretch. I like to get into this really simply here. You're gonna step one leg back, cross the other leg. You can put it up a little bit or slide back. Boom, just like this. As with the other stretches, it's not about the shape, it's about what you feel in the tissues you're looking for. Okay, so you can come down, you can come up, you can rotate a little bit. I tend to find that the other positions, I'm able to adjust a little bit more with my pelvis, which helps me find a better stretch. But again, find what works for you. This might work great, it might not. So now we want to produce force. Let's work from this position back to the others we started with. So from this one, what I want to do, I'm finding that stretch, okay, boom. Now the way I can produce force is I want to consciously use these tissues where I find that stretch to drive me up. Now, you may need to use your hands to help, or maybe you can go like that. If you're doing this and you only feel here or here and you don't feel it in those tissues, try to adjust your position and really consciously use those stretched tissues in your glute, in your piriformis, to push you up and help you control down. Push you up, control down. You absolutely can do this with weight, but I would just be mindful that you're not irritating anything first. Now from this 90-90 position, boom, I'm grabbing on here, I'm leaning in to find that nice stretch that I want, and what I can do is a similar idea, is use this hip to drive me back up and lean in. drive me back up, and lean in. The key with this is we're not using gravity to help. We want to use these tissues to control us down and to propel us back up. So the back isn't doing the work, it's this hip. To make this a little bit more intense or feel it a little bit more, you can pull this leg. So my arm is pulling, my leg is resisting. And if you find the stretch and you start pulling and resisting, you're going to feel tension in this glute, in this piriformis area. Okay, so you want to find that stretch, start pulling, and a couple things you can do here. You can do the lean in and push up, right? Keeping that tension, so it's going to be a little more intense than if you weren't pulling with your arm. Or you can find that deep stretch and do an isometric. So I can try to pull this up, resist it, work into a hard effort with the glute, with the piriformis for 10 to 15 seconds, and then slowly relax. So just stretching the tissue alone doesn't create a whole lot of lasting adaptation. You can do the stretch, then follow it up with either these isometrics or the leaning in and out, or both. You can start with the isometrics if you're not sure, as that tends to be a little bit less intense, but start with maybe 50, 70% of your maximal effort. See how it feels as you learn to engage that tissue, because it might not happen right away. Sometimes it's hard to really make that connection. Okay, now back to my favorite, on the incline bench. How are we going to produce force here? For some people, because you're already leaned in and you're supporting some of your body weight, just taking your hands off or taking a little pressure off your hands is going to make these tissues work in the back. That's awesome. That's if you want to use whatever works for you right now. Initially, it might be taking a little pressure off, then maybe you lift off entirely. Then, another reason the bench is amazing, you can pull against the bench and resist with your leg and create a really intense isometric contraction. I find it can be a lot more intense than from the floor. So if you're ready to progress, you can come up here, you can try it, and you can do that leaning in and pushing out using your hands or going hands-free. But remember, it's not so much about the movement or about the exact angles, it's more about the tissues. So with this movement, I want to find that stretch, drive up out of it using those stretch muscles. That's the big key. And one thing I didn't mention is if you think about taking this butt cheek, so if it's the left glute and piriformis, and pushing it backwards without the rest of your body moving, boom, you might be able to find an even deeper stretch. Or if you think about your tailbone and kicking it back and up, like if you had a tail, you're gonna present it, okay? So a little bit of anterior pelvic tilt, sometimes that can help you find a little bit deeper stretch. But again, it really depends on the person. It depends on where you have the limitation. Now, final thing here, we want to reinforce all the good work we've done. We're going to do hip cars to do that. So big hip rotations. You're coming across your body, up as high as you can. Pry out, rotate as you reach back. You might start feeling some of that tissue we worked on. Come underneath, then you're going to drive back. Pry the knee and ankle up like you're going up over a hurdle. Across and down. We want the rest of the body staying as still as possible as we do this. Not looking for perfection here, but we want to get all the muscles around the hip working. When the joint functions well, all the tissues around it tend to function better. And we're helping the joint function better with the stretching and the isometrics we're doing. Then we're reinforcing that with the joint movement. So it's all one beautiful positive feedback loop when we do it well and do it consistently. I hope you enjoyed this. Try it out. Let me know how it goes. I'd love to hear your feedback.